Between 1979 to 2024, productivity in the U.S. soared by 80.9%, while hourly pay grew by just 29.4% during the same period.
The paychecks of typical workers have not grown nearly as fast as overall economic growth over the past 40 years.
In June 2024, two-thirds of middle-income households believed that their income was falling behind the cost of living.
Question of the day. Are you in this 2/3 of the middle class within the United States of America as of about 7 months ago, 6-7 months ago from the time of the recording of this video? Are you in that group that feels like your income is starting to fall behind the cost of living? Now, keep in mind, the 1/3 of the middle class is probably the upper third of the middle class. Depending on where exactly you look on the internet, if you were to Google what's the middle class, you'll see a range of somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000, maybe give or take a couple thousand on either end, depending on where exactly you look. Also, keep in mind the average combined household income in the United States right now is somewhere around $80,000. Again, it depends on exactly where you're looking, what study, where exactly it came from, who they polled. It'll be somewhere around $80,000. Again, that's the average combined household income in the United States right now. I think it's kind of interesting that when we have conversations like the one we had last week about whether or not $100,000 is enough to, support a family or to be thriving or to just survive even as a single person, everybody is hopping in the comments saying $100,000 is just not enough. There's people saying $100,000 is poor. You're barely getting by on $100,000 a year. Yet, statistically, the average combined household income is right around $80,000. When we hop on social media, it's a completely different story. Everybody balling. I say this almost every video. Everybody balling. Everybody got the nicest shoes. Everybody got the latest cars. Everybody going on trips. But here we seen that the overwhelming majority of people in the United States of America, because the majority of us are in that middle class range, the overwhelming majority are not happy and they feel as though they're falling behind the cost of living. So the question is, why is everybody on social media capping when we feel as though we're falling behind the cost of living and $100,000 a year ain't enough and everybody is poor and everybody is broke and the job market is this and that? Why do we prioritize presenting an image? That's the question I pose to y'all. But y'all continue watching the video. Watch the whole video. We finna go through this, see how much value we can extract out of it, and see, if anything they're saying, if there's some validity to the claims that they make throughout this video.
I think that many Americans feel the financial struggle because their household budget and their household balance sheets are facing so much pressure.
Every time I check my local mom group on Facebook, I see requests or people asking where they can get some financial assistance to pay utilities or assistance with rent. And it's concerning.
So this lines up with the statistic they just presented with the 1/3 of middle class Americans feeling as though they're falling behind the cost of living. Now they're saying 29% of households have jobs but are struggling to cover basic needs. Essentially the same statistic, just reworded.
Because these people are working full-time jobs and they just can't make things work right now.
The issue of wage trends, wage suppression, it just could not be more central to what has happened to the middle class over the past couple of decades.
So what exactly is keeping the middle class from earning a higher paycheck?
I think people think inflation is a policy problem, but wages are my problem. And it turns out wages are not just your problem. Wages are entirely a policy and political variable.
All right. I want to caution y'all against not believing, but completely buying into the claim that he just made, which is that wages are entirely a policy problem. Now, it depends on how you're looking at it, right? If you're looking at it from a governmental and a actual policy standpoint, I'm in Texas, like minimum wage here has been $7.25 forever. Is that an issue? Yeah, but if you raise the minimum wage overnight, then you're putting strain on businesses. That's going to lead to, people shutting down, people getting let go, there being less jobs available. So obviously it's a pretty complex issue. That being said, we know, me and you know, that to a degree, you always have to take some form of personal accountability for your wages. It's not doing you any good sitting in the house, hopping in the comment section of this video or any video on the internet, just complaining about it. The best thing you can do is make the proper investments in yourself, in your education early on, whether you want to go into a trade, whether you want to go to college, whether you want to go into the military, making the proper investments, taking the proper steps early on in your life, as early as you possibly can, to be working towards whatever financial goals or milestones you have set up in your own life, and avoiding living your life in a victim mentality. That's the biggest thing that I want to convey to you guys. If you take nothing else away from this video, away from me, away from this channel, is that we cannot live our lives in a victim mentality. Yes, it's bad. Yes, it is bad. But there's always something that you can do about it to some degree.
The goal of policymakers at the Federal Reserve is to ensure maximum employment while keeping prices stable. They rely on various economic data to guide their decisions, including the natural rate of unemployment.
Economists produce this thing they call the natural rate of unemployment. It's like the lowest unemployment can go without generating inflation.
Throughout history, the natural rate of unemployment has hovered between 4.5% and 5.5%.
And then we look at actual unemployment and how often it is above that estimate of the natural rate versus below. And if you look at the years since 1979, we have spent far more time with actual unemployment well above that estimate.
Yeah, he's right. Okay, so if we break this graph down, so it's going from 1950 to 2020, right around modern times in 2024. As of right now, if the end of this graph represents 2024, it's not too bad right now. We're right on course. But you can see right here, 2021, 2022, right around the time of the pandemic is what this looks like. It's right after 2020. It was the highest that it's ever been. The rate of employment was the highest it's ever been. It's right around 15%, which makes sense. I don't know if it's the highest it's been in American history. Because this graph doesn't take into account, stuff like the Great Depression and anything that happened before 1950. But like I said, yeah, it is kind of bad. It was bad. You can see it was also bad right here around 2010, right after 2008, right after the crash of 2008. It was kind of bad then. So yeah, I mean, as of right now, it looks like we're recovering, but it has been bad. This is actually a pretty interesting
Between
graph.
1949 and 1979, the actual unemployment rate was cumulatively 15.3% below the natural rate of unemployment. In contrast, the unemployment rate was cumulatively 35.7% above the natural rate of unemployment between 1979 and 2017. This has real-world consequences for the American middle class, because wages tend to grow faster during periods when unemployment is low.
Right.
The Economic Policy Institute estimates that just a 1 percentage point drop in unemployment leads to wage growth of 0.4 to 0.9 percentage points for workers near the median of the wage distribution.
Okay.
The best bargaining chip any employee has to getting wage growth is going to the boss and saying, I'm going to go somewhere else unless I make more money. And that's just not a credible threat.
And yeah, I mean, that's true, because from an employer's standpoint, it is always way cheaper to keep an employee than to have to go through, potential recruiting somebody else, reaching out to, to try to find another person that is as qualified as the current that you already have in the role. They're saying relationships for grown married men, it's always cheaper to keep her. You may feel how you feel about that. That's subjective when it comes to relationships, but it is objectively true when it comes to employment.
Employment is high. The only people whose wages are not very affected by unemployment are like the 90th and 95th percentile. Like, they don't need super low unemployment to get some consistent wage growth, but the middle class absolutely does.
This means the Federal Reserve's policy decisions that result in higher than necessary unemployment might be creating conditions that actively hold back wage growth for middle-class Americans. Location could be another factor.
There are other reasons.
Yeah, location is the biggest factor. That was one conversation we were having on a couple of videos ago when we were talking about whether or not $100,000 is enough to survive or not. That $100,000 stretches way further where I'm at in Houston, Texas, than it does in California or New York or anywhere where the cost of living is significantly higher. So yeah, the outside of just wages and the money that you earn, the money coming out of your pocket based on your monthly living expenses is extremely important.
for why we've seen less growth in the middle than, say, at the other parts of the distribution. Another one is just that people don't move as much as they used to.
The share of Americans on the move has declined over the years. From
Even when we have conversations like we have pretty commonly on the channel when we're talking about the workplace and how to, increase your income, which is that every 2 to 3 years, you should be either moving up in your company or looking to move outward, going to another company, going to possibly a competitor that will actually meet your income expectations. We've seen that people are job hopping less and less as inflation goes up and as the job market, the housing market, the car market gets worse, as everything is progressively getting more expensive. People are typically staying where they're at out of fear.
more than 20% in 1948 to just 8.7% in 2022. Between 1986 and 1997, almost 29% of job seekers relocated for new jobs. That number has fallen to just 1.6% in 2023.
Jeez. This is people relocating for new jobs. The question that I want to ask is, are companies now giving less of a relocation bonus? Is that a factor into this? Let me go back. Let me just show that statistic to you guys compared to this. Almost 29% of job seekers relocated for new jobs between 1986 and 1997.
Relocated for new jobs. That number has fallen to just 1.6.
And today, not 2024 going into 2025, but as of last year, as of 2023, that number has fallen to 1.6%. That's crazy. That's insane.
In 2023. Location plays a crucial role in wages. Despite the surge in remote work during the COVID-19 pandemic, wages for remote and hybrid jobs haven't grown nearly as much as salaries for full-time in-office roles, with some research estimating that remote workers could earn up to 30% more if they came into the office 5 days a week.
Is there any validity to that? Let me go back. Y'all let me know if you've had a remote position. We're seeing tons of return to office mandates. If you've had a remote position, anybody, please let me know in the comments. If you've had a remote position lately and you've moved to going back into the office 5 days a week, a good example of this would be if you work for Amazon. Have you seen a significant increase, up to a 30% increase in your salary? Is this valid? Y'all let me know in the comments below.
It's 5 days a week.
Decades ago, when I was a worker living in sort of a lower opportunity area, I would move to a higher productivity city, like maybe San Francisco or New York City or Los Angeles. And as a result, I'd be able to capture higher wages, gain more skills, and then move up the income distribution. Now there's a lot less people moving across areas to capture those opportunities. Real reason behind that is astronomical housing costs that are due to excessive regulations at local levels.
Right, and like I said, as the housing market gets worse, as everything gets more expensive, it's kind of only going to get worse. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it right there. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts about this in the comments down below. I love to get y'all thoughts. I'll do my best to respond to every comment because I genuinely want to have a real conversation with you guys about these topics.